Okay, so get my screen up here. Tonight, we are going to do a virtual back to school night for Achieve Virtual. We're going to do a quick introduction. We're going to go over policies and procedures with Achieve Virtual. We will look at the diploma requirements and then pathways and graduation seals, which are all related to the current Indiana diplomas. We're going to go over that briefly because there's a lot of information there, and we will have separate webinars specifically looking at those diplomas individually. We will look at the testing students might have with Achieve Virtual depending on what grade they're in. We're going to look at the future with Achieve Virtual, looking ahead and looking at spring scheduling. And then we are going to end with some tips that we have for your students to be successful with us. So first up, a little bit about us. We are Achieve Virtual. We are one of 3 high schools in Wayne Township. There's Ben Davis University, and Achieve Virtual. So the students who are with us are fully enrolled in Achieve Virtual Education Academy, a public high school within Wayne Township. My name is Stephanie Rose. I am one of the counselors with Achieve Virtual who works with students in grades 9 through 12. I have 10 years of experience in virtual counseling. This is my 10th year with Achieve, and I have 10 years of traditional school counseling prior to coming to Achieve. I did graduate from Ben Davis High School, and I currently have 2 children in Avon High School. My son is a junior and my daughter is a sophomore. So my junior is in the last graduating class of the Indiana Core 40, and my daughter is in the first graduating class of the new Diploma 42. So not only am I looking at these new diplomas as a counselor, I am also a parent going through it with my own children. And then Mr. Woosley is here with us as well. He's helping me monitor the chat. He is in his 10th year at Achieve Virtual as well, and had 26 prior years to coming to Achieve in teaching and education. He has 3 adult daughters and then 3 grandchildren with 1 on the way. He works with all of our students in the middle school, so grades 7 and 8, and then he also works with in-district students in Wayne Township in grades 9 through 12. Okay, so what I want to start with is different technology programs students will use when they are with Achieve Virtual. The main program, the main application they're going to be working in is Canvas. So this is where all of the students' coursework is located and submitted. It's where students are able to track their attendance by looking at the pacing guides and making sure that they have everything turned in on time. It has the most up-to-date gradebook. It also has the location on where you can check comments on your gradebook, and it is where you can message your teachers. I am going to put examples in one of the future slides of how to work in Canvas so that you see how we monitor attendance and where students can check grades and the comments on assignments. Guardians do have access to a parent caregiver Canvas account. If you are not already on that, if you send a message to Mr. Woosley or I, or you send us an email, we will give you instructions on how to get that up and running for you. So the students have their own Canvas account, and then parents have a Guardian account where they can help monitor things and check grades as well for their student. Another application that students are going to hear is Zello. This is what the district uses for college and career readiness. It's a lot of resources are located inside this. Students can access their transcripts. They have college and career planning tools. They can do college applications through Zello, and there are some assessments that are available in there. Our district sends out surveys about once a semester, and those are sent to the students through Zello. Some students haven't had to use Zello yet. It's not part of a current class they're using, so they haven't checked it out yet. If a student wants to check out Zello, we will send out information through a parent square on how students can access this. But when they go to the Wayne Learning Hub, instead of clicking on Canvas, they would click on the Clever application. And then once inside Clever, it shows another screen like when you're logging into the Wayne Learning Hub, and they would click on Zello. That takes them directly to their own Zello account through Wayne Township. Another program that students will be using is Gmail. Some of our new students don't realize that they have a school Gmail account. This Gmail account, if students are saying they're not getting messages from their teachers or they're not seeing the school emails that are sent, we typically send that to the student, school email account, and then the Guardian account. The Login for this, students would go to Gmail, and it's whatever their login ID is for Canvas, and then it's at student.wayne.k12.in.us, and their password is the same as what they use for Canvas. Their login email address was sent to them, and when they register for classes, it's listed in there, but we will send out this PowerPoint and the recording so that they can get that email address and get logged in if they haven't already. And then another one that most parents are probably familiar with right now is Parent Square. That is where the majority of our newsletters and announcements will come from. So some parents have an app on their phone for Parent Square and it gets sent to their phone. Other students and families receive it through an email. This is where our biweekly newsletter comes out through. If I have announcements or Mr. Woosley has announcements, we send it there. Teachers will sometimes post announcements through Parent Square, and then our district has a Parent Square that also comes to you. The one thing I want to say about this, as a virtual school, the majority of our communication comes through email and Parent Square. If you have Parent Square set to digest, that means every 24 hours it sends you one email of any of the Parent Squares that were sent out within the prior 24 hours. You might open that up and see something from the district that you think doesn't apply to you, but directly underneath it, depending on the time it was sent, could be something from our school. So I always recommend that you scroll through, if you have the digest version, the entire Parent Square, because tucked in between other district announcements might be messages from your teacher or announcements from our school, because we send out scholarship information, any of these nights that we're having, those all come to parents and are notified through the Parent Square. And then finally, there is Skyward. Skyward is where students went to initially enroll in our program. And then the grades sync nightly to Skyward, but for the most accurate grades, you would go to Canvas. And then it is where at the end of the semester, you lose access to your Canvas courses, and students might want to double check what their final grade is. The final grades for that semester are posted in Skyward. So what I tell families is most up-to-date grades during the semester, check Canvas. If you want to know the grades at the end of the semester, you would go through Skyward. And then I just wanted to briefly mention our school does have a YouTube page. This Achieve Virtual Education Academy is our most up-to-date page. If you just search Achieve Virtual, you might find the one that has our older logo. This new one is the one that's been updated with all of our current information on using Canvas. And it's also where we, like any of the webinars we're having, where this is going to be uploaded. So if you have questions about something, we did a webinar last year on the new diploma for 9th and 10th graders. If you weren't with us last year and you want to go watch that, that's where it would be located. So with the first thing to touch on, and I think our biggest question that we get from new students, I wanted to look at the attendance policies that are in place with us at Achieve Virtual. We have to follow the state requirements for attendance. Even though we're a virtual school, we still need a way to track attendance and monitor that students are logging in 5 days a week. So if a student is not meeting that requirement and we have sent emails and reached out to the family and they haven't responded or started logging back in, the student is not meeting those requirements, and we can and will remove them as either missing or truant. So make sure if you have questions about the attendance policies, you let us know so we can help you figure that out. Our flexibility in an online school is that students get to determine the times and days that they are logging in for those 5 days. So if a student wants to work on the weekend, they can count that day as one of their 5 days that week. If they want to work at 2 a.m., that's totally fine. We have some students who want to work the traditional hours and do Monday through Friday, and they do 8 to 3. So your flexibility is that you get to pick your schedule and the time that you are working in our classes. The expectation for our students is that they are logging into our system 5 days a week, and they are averaging 3 to 6 hours per course. The reason that is a range is because some students work quicker, some students need a little bit more time, and some of your classes are going to be more time intensive. Your PE class is going to have your PE log and exercise log and journal, but it might not be as time consuming during the week as you would have with an English class. So the expectation is 5 days a week, you are logging in and you're averaging those hours per week in each course. So what we do to determine that, and I'm going to have an example on a future page, is how we go to the pacing guideline in all of your courses, and each teacher has a week's assignments that are due on Friday. As long as a student is turning in those assignments by that Friday, we consider them in attendance. The one thing to know for this is if a student is using Canvas and does not log in and out each day, not only is it a security risk for the student because it's keeping their schoolwork open and up at all times, it will not track their attendance accurately. So on the next page, I'm going to show you what that looks like, but just know you need to log out when you're done working and log back in to get your attendance to count. With attendance, one of the questions we get is, I was just added, I think I'm 4 weeks behind. Am I going to lose points because of that, or is my attendance not going to be tracked accurately? We are still enrolling students for another 2.5 to 3 weeks. We know, and the teachers know, when the student gets enrolled. What the student will do is they will log in, and the teachers start off the semester pretty slow because they know we are open enrollment for several weeks. They would start at the beginning and complete weeks 1 and 2. The next week, they complete weeks 3 and 4 because there's only 1 to 2 assignments that are due each week at the beginning. So by the time we get to mid-September, when we have everybody enrolled, everybody's ready to go enrolling with the pacing guide at that point. And the other thing we get questions on is, can I work ahead? Our high school students can work ahead in their classes. The majority of our classes, the entire course is up from the first day for our high school students. As long as you are getting the assignments turned in by the due date and you're still logging in, you can finish that class up early. If you finish that class early and you want to add in additional classes, you would talk to your counselor, and we would be able to add in additional classes if all of the classes you're scheduled into are finished. The one thing to know for this is we will not add in classes after Thanksgiving break. Even if you add in a class in October, the deadline to get that done is still the end of the semester, December 18th. So after Thanksgiving break, if you finish everything up early, great. You're going to get an extra long winter break, but we will not be able to add in any other classes. If you finish all of your classes early and you don't want to add in other classes, or you don't need to, what you need to do for your attendance is message Mr. Woosley or myself. We will verify that all of your classes have been completed. We will notify our principals, and they will mark that on our truancy attendance list so that they know you have met all of your requirements for attendance this semester, and will pick up monitoring in the spring semester. So I know this is kind of small. I took a couple of screenshots from my own Canvas login page so that you could see what we look at. So at the very top, what our assistant principal does weekly is he types in everyone's name into the system to see when their last login was. So we're looking at my name. The last time I logged into Canvas was 12:36 p.m. today. He is checking to make sure that students have logged in within 3 to 4 days to make sure they're getting their 5 days in weekly. From that point, we can click on the name of the student and we can see their activity and time spent in each course. So if you look at what I was active in for Canvas today, or actually I guess this was yesterday, I spent 15 seconds on one of the links before I clicked out to something else. There is a participated tab which would put a green check mark next to anything that the student has turned in. So if it looks like a student hasn't logged in for a couple days, we click on their name and we can see if they've participated. I will say one of the questions we get a lot from parents is, why did I get a truancy email? I've looked at my student working and they've had Canvas up on their screen. The student could be sitting at their computer and have Canvas up, but if they are not submitting and participating in the class, that is not attendance. So you need to make sure that not only are you logged in, you are submitting the assignments. That's what checks your participation. So right below that, I've got an example of what would be considered not in good standing for attendance. You can then go into each course and you can look in the gradebook and see when the assignments are due, when it was turned in, and if they are behind. So the student that I'm looking at had something due August 14th and got it turned in by August 19th. Great. We will take late assignments and you would not lose points as long as you got it turned in. But they haven't turned anything in since August 19th, and now they are behind by a full week in that class. So we make sure that students are staying up to date on all of their classes, and the students can verify this by going to the gradebook checking the due dates for all of their classes and making sure that it's been submitted before that Friday deadline for that week. And then while we're talking about Canvas and how we monitor attendance, I just wanted to give families a little bit of info on Canvas and tips to make Canvas more successful for you. In that gradebook where you can see the due dates for all the classes, if you look at the example I put, you can see a little comment box. One of them has 1 and one of them has 2. The students can check comments that the teachers have left for them on each assignment. I am a teacher in one class, and I just want to give an example about one of the comments I left for one of my students. A student lost 2 points for their response, so I just let them know this is why I took off 2 points. You could earn them back if you comment or message me what was missing from your answer. So if you see a comment box in the gradebook, please check it, because if a teacher has questions, they will mark those there for you. The other thing is, when you're in your class, there is an announcements tab. I definitely make sure that all students check their announcements. If a teacher is getting a lot of questions about a certain assignment from students, they might post an announcement in there to give clarification. They'll post announcements to remind students where they should be at that time. So make sure you're staying on top of the announcements in each course as well. The other thing about Canvas that we get some questions on, if a student is working on Canvas in their Chrome browser and they have a personal Gmail account, it might not open all the Google Docs and links correctly. If you use Chrome, there's a way in the browser to check which Gmail account is logged into Chrome. You want to make sure you're not logged into your personal account, you're logged in by your school email address, and that will open up all of the documents correctly for you if you're having trouble with those in Canvas. And then finally, the last point is there is an inbox in Canvas. Teachers will message students reminders, questions through inbox, and students can email their teachers through that inbox. I highlighted what it looks like on my screen. You can see that one on the bottom right, but we just want to make sure if students see notifications there in that Canvas inbox that they are checking those. It's also a great way to message your teacher while you're working because it will get sent right to their Canvas account as well. Okay, for the next part, I am going to briefly look at the diplomas that students are working on in Indiana currently. Right now, juniors and seniors are on the Core 40, and freshmen and sophomores are on the new Indiana Diploma 42. I'm not going to go into too much depth about those requirements because, again, we want to meet with families individually to make sure each student is on track, and we also will have webinars available for that specific diploma. But the Indiana Core 40 requires 40 credits, and then it has 2 additional requirements. The students need to show employability skills and complete a graduation pathway. The employability skills can be shown through work-based learning hours, which is through a job, volunteer work, or an extracurricular activity. Or it can be shown through a district survey that's sent through Zello, and this is sent at the end of each semester, which has a reflection for the student to submit. So those employability skills can either be done through a job and work-based learning or by submitting that survey through Zello. And we will send information when that survey is available for students to fill out so that you know how to fill it out and how to access it. The graduation pathways is the other requirement that students need to complete in addition to those 40 credits. Students would be able to graduate with an honors diploma, complete some advanced level coursework, obtain certain scores on a test, or we have a couple of CTE pathways, evolution to employability, and the social and community service pathway. What Mr. Woosley and I do is when we are scheduling students, we give them the information about the pathways we have available, and we are always adding new pathways or trying to add new pathways. So we will have additional pathways available, hopefully each year as we are here. But that's what the pathways is. So it's in addition to those 40 credits, we need to show employability skills and a graduation pathway. The new Indiana diploma for 9th and 10th graders is very similar to the Core 40, except it requires 42 credits, and it wants students to have a little bit more freedom in their core classes. So 9th and 10th grade, the students on the core or the new Diploma 42 have to have certain classes. But when they get to junior and senior year, They're going to have a little bit more flexibility in which English class they want to take. There's a couple of additional options for your social studies courses. So there's more flexibility, but there's additional credits that the students need. Instead of needing to complete the employability skills in the pathway, what they have called the new diplomas is Indiana Diploma 42 or the Indiana Diploma 42 Honors and Honors Plus Seals in Enlistment, Enrollment, and Employment. If a student wants to graduate with one of those honors seals, it's very similar to the current like academic honors and technical honors diplomas. If a student does not, they can graduate with the graduation pathways, which are the same as what we have for the current Core 40. So the diplomas are very similar, but the requirements to get each of them are a little bit different. So with that, I wanted to let all families know, we know this is confusing. I work in education and also have a student who's going through the new diplomas, and it's confusing for me. So I know it is a lot of information, which is why our current ninth graders, we want to hold a meeting with all of them. It can be in person, Google Meet, or a phone call, and we will make sure that all the families understand what path would be best for their student. Students that are older than that are also welcome to have these meetings. The great thing about these diplomas is it's very individualized. The state recognizes that there's not one path for all of our students. It's very individualized, which is great, but makes it hard to do a live session that goes over all of that information for families. So just know we will send out more information about these diplomas and target the groups that we need to do with that information. So with that, let's look at some of the testing that students will have with us at Achieve. First will be the iLearn exams. Our middle school students will do the middle school iLearn exam, which has 3 checkpoints that they will complete from home. It's remotely given at home. Information is given out to the middle school students about this. At the end of the year, they will have the iLearn summative exam. That one they do have to come into our office and they take that test with us in our Indianapolis location. The iLearn window is a very tight window to get all of the tests in, so there's very limited makeup opportunities for this. You will get information in the spring semester about your testing day, and if at all possible, please make sure you can get there on that testing day. We might not have makeup sessions available that fit with your schedule. The high school also has iLearn exams. The difference between high school and middle school, the middle school students must take the iLearn. High school students, when they are in biology or U.S. government, will be given the iLearn exam that applies to that course at the end of the school year in that same mid-April, early May time window. This test would also be completed in person with us in Indianapolis. The difference with the high school exams is this test does not have a passing score that is required for your diploma. You don't have to obtain a certain score to get your diploma, but our school has to offer it to each student the year that they are taking that course. So if you're in biology or U.S. government, know that in early spring, we will also be communicating with you about those 2 iLearn exams. The one test that everyone's going to take with us, no matter what, is the final exams. The final exams are completed at home. You would finish the course in its entirety, and then you would message the teacher and say, I think I'm finished with the course and I'm ready for the final exam. The teacher verifies that you're ready, sends you the final exam password, and you would complete that at home. And then once that's done, you would wait to see the grade and you would hear back from the teacher if you passed the class, what your grade is, things like that. So final exams are for every course. All students must complete them, and they are completed at home. 2 more exams that you're going to hear about from us that are optional are the PSAT exam and the SAT exam. The PSAT is a practice SAT that is free for sophomores and juniors who want to travel to our location in Indianapolis and complete this test. This test requires a sign up, and it's about the first 2 weeks of August that it is available to sign up for the PSAT. If a student isn't able to take the test with us, it's too far to travel. If they miss the sign up, what I recommend is a student signs up for the online Khan Academy. They partnered with College Board, and it has one of the best free practice partnerships for the SAT that a student can take. You would do their free SAT prep course and it is great practice if students can't make the PSAT and want to practice for the SAT. The SAT is the exam that all juniors are given in the spring semester, and the state covers the cost for the SAT. So juniors are not required to take this test to graduate, but if they want to take it for free during the school day, they would need to come to us in March. If we're too far away, you don't make the March testing, you can still take this on your own, but you would need to register for that on your own, find a location near you, and then you would need to cover that cost as a family. And then the final two tests that we're going to look at would be the ASVAB and AP testing. ASVAB is a career aptitude test proctored by the military that's given in the spring semester. This is offered to students in grades 10 through 12, and the test is proctored by the military, but taking the test does not commit you to the military. It doesn't enlist you in the military. It's just an available career test that students could take if they would like. This test is one of the best career tests you can take because it matches not only your skills and knowledge, but your interests. So you would be able to get your scores back and do an interest inventory quiz, and then it would help match you up to future careers. This test does count as a pathway, but it only counts as a pathway if students are intending to enlist in the military. You would need to get a 31 or higher on the ASVAB and sign a form that's an intent to enlist form to have that on file. And then this would be able to be a pathway option for students who are looking at the military. And then the final test is AP testing. AP is advanced placement tests that students would take if they are in one of College Board's advanced level courses. Students in grades 9 and 10, if they are planning to complete one of those honors or honors seal plus diplomas, they have to take this AP test. A score is required with every AP course to count for that AP requirement for those honors seals. If you are not in grades 9 and 10 and not using this for one of your seals and not able to make it to our location, you can still take the AP test. You still get a score and a grade for your AP class. It just wouldn't give you that AP test score of a 1 through a 5 that could potentially let you test out of college level credit. These courses are given in May, and the one main thing about the AP classes, if you are in an AP class, you need to check the announcements because your teachers have given out information on how to register for these classes. We cannot register you, and there's a firm deadline with College Board in order to register yourself. So the AP teachers are pushing out that information in their courses so that you can get signed up if you want to take that test with us in May. The state does cover the cost for up to 2 of these exams, but if you're in more than 2 AP classes, it is about $100 per test you take over the 2. So with that, I know I have thrown a lot of information at you. I've got 2 more slides to go over with families before we can look at questions or see if anybody has any questions. The first is looking ahead and future scheduling. Most important fact for right now is the semester ends Friday, December 18th at 4 p.m. Students will lose access to those courses at 4 p.m. on Friday. So if they have started their final at 3:50 p.m., they're going to get kicked out. You need to plan ahead and make sure you have everything in before that 4 p.m. deadline. All course content and finals must be completed. And one of the things I think students forget, we are an online school, which means every assignment we have was picked to cover one of the state standards for that class. A student might think it's just a 5-10 point assignment and skip over it, but you have to complete every assignment. You cannot turn in assignments blank, and everything needs to be covered in order for us to give you credit for that course. I recommend that all students try to take their finals and have all course content finished within the first 2 weeks of December. When you get into that last week of December before the finals, teachers are getting flooded with emails and phone calls wanting to get the password, double check an assignment, see where they're at. Their response time will become longer than it is in the beginning of the semester. So try to finish up everything within the first 2 weeks of December, if at all possible. And then the other thing to note is you will fail the course with us if any of the following happen. If you do not finish all course assignments, if you fail the final, if you do not take the final, or if you do not get your grade between everything up to passing. So we will fail students if one of those situations occurs. And what happens if you fail a course is we put you back in that course in the spring semester. But you start that course from the beginning. Your stuff that you have submitted does not transfer with you into the spring semester. So you need to make sure you're staying on top of that pacing guide and get everything in, because otherwise you have to start from the beginning in the spring. But once you retake a course, the semester that shows the F, and we have a passing grade for a new semester, the semester that shows the F would be turned into an NG, which stands for no grade. That grade will no longer figure into your GPA. It's the new grade with the passing that would be the one that figures into your GPA. So again, if we fail a course, we'll work with you. We'll get you back in the spring semester so that we can get you back on track. And then a couple of things with the spring scheduling that I want students to be aware of. Mr. Woosley and I have scheduled some students the full year. So some students have fall and spring classes. Some students are still looking at their diploma options, their pathways, or we haven't received records yet for if they're new. So we have a fall schedule in, and we're going to hold a meeting in order to get the spring classes scheduled. I plan on looking at all of that for spring scheduling after fall break, but if you want to start looking at it now, feel free to set up a meeting earlier. The other thing is we send an email with your diploma requirements, a copy of your transcript, electives. We send everything through email so the students can reference back to that. We love to do meetings in person, on the phone, or through Google Meets. Those are great, but we do want it in email as well so you can reference back and see what we see as well. And then four-year planning. We're going to start with our ninth graders, making sure that we have which diploma they're looking at, their future plans, and we want to make sure that everyone is lined up for their future goals. So you will get information from us on when we are going to start looking at doing those meetings. And even if you're not in ninth grade, if you're in 10th, 11th, or 12th and want to double check what we have for you, feel free to set up a meeting with us. We will definitely be able to do that. And then in the spring, we plan to hold a college planning night for 9th through 11th graders who want to look and start thinking about their college plans. If you are a senior and you're currently going through the application process now, if you are unsure what you want to do and want to talk with somebody about that, feel free to set up a meeting with us now as well. I am helping students with their college applications. We're going to hold a FAFSA night in October to help students with FAFSA and scholarship information, but just make sure you're reaching out to us. If you don't want to wait for one of those webinars, just email us and we'll set up an appointment with you. And then finally, last slide, we're going to look at some tips for success with us at Achieve. First one, don't procrastinate. It is very easy to do. Students who have been with us for a couple of weeks now probably are up to date if they've been working and have found it very easy to stay up on that pacing guide. Because we're still enrolling students for another couple weeks, after September 15th, instead of potentially 1 to 2 assignments in the class for that week, you could have 3 to 5. You want to make sure that you are still logging in for your attendance, checking classes, because we have found that if students take a couple days off from logging in, they're going to extend that and then they're going to be up for truancy. So make sure that you're staying on top of things and you're logging in those 5 days a week. Follow the pacing guides and the due dates that we have for you in Canvas. If you are on top of the pacing guides, you will finish the course by December 18th. It has you lined up for the length of the assignment, the amount of research that's due to get everything in by that deadline of December 18th. And then as a virtual school, communication is going to be key to a student's success. Students can choose to have as much or as little communication with us as they would like, but if a student is struggling and they're not turning work in because they're struggling, the teacher reaches out but doesn't hear back. We don't know if you're struggling because you just don't want to do the work, you've stopped logging in, or you don't understand it. If you're unsure of who to ask a question to, you can definitely email the counselors. We will direct you to who you need to be directed to or troubleshoot it for you. Another thing is plan ahead. We use technology to get our courses, all the assignments in and submitted. Some of you might remember at the end of last year, if you were a school that used Canvas, nationwide, every school district and college that used Canvas went down for almost a week due to someone hacking into that system. Our district was able to get it up and running in a couple days. But the students who were behind, when they lost 3-4 days in May, it set them much further back than the students who were already up to date on their pacing guide. Technology tends to have issues at the most inconvenient time. So that's another reason for staying on top of those pacing guides and making sure you're up to date on everything. And then the final two things, check your email and check the Parent Square announcements. We are a virtual school. We can't hold a mass meeting of our students and give out these announcements to everybody over an intercom, something like that. We have to send it through email and Parent Squares. You just need to make sure that you're reading that information and staying on top of that. Again, if you do the digest version of Parent Square, make sure you're skimming all the way to the bottom. And at any time, if you have questions about anything, just reach out to us. We want you to be successful and we're here to help you be successful. So again, let us know at any time if you are struggling. So that is the end of my presentation. And I know I just gave a lot of information in about 35 minutes. I'm going to stop the recording and then open it up if anybody has any questions they want to ask or type those in the chat. Again, you can call us or email us as well if it's a more like in-depth question about students' grades, transcripts, diplomas when Mr. Woosley and I are in the office so we can look at your students' direct information. So give me 1 second to stop the recording.